And we're back again. This is the Third Degree Whitebelts podcast with the Kung Fu Kids, and we're going to break down UFC Korean Zombie versus IG. My name's Dom, and I worked as a wrestling coach in the Dagestani mountains, training grizzlies on how to beat Khabib.
And I'm Matt. I recently stopped Luis Pena escaping with some stolen goods using a banned art of Wing Chun. We're here to break down Zombie versus Ige. Right, should we start with the headline fight?
Yeah.
All right.
Korean Zombie versus Dan IG. Pretty close fight, but I never really felt like Korean Zombie was in any kind of trouble.
No, it was good. He was a lot more measured this time.
Yeah.
I think it was the most measured I've seen him. There was a stat. It was his first decision win in 13 years, which is absolutely insane. I mean, he did take like 6 years off where he had to go fight in the Korean army.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was back. He mixed a lot more wrestling in, got a few more takedowns.
He's fighting smart now.
I mean, there was a quote earlier in the week where he said that in the beginning, he had to fight in a way to entertain fans in order to get fans. And I think now he knows everyone loves him. So now he can start to fight more sensibly. And I hope he does continue to go up the ladder and eventually get that title shot.
Apparently in the second round, his shoulder popped out, which is the same injury that he had against Jose Aldo. And I think also he's got like bad knees. I mean, he really is turning into an actual zombie at this point. He's falling apart. You know, like the way that he used to fight, he used to just kind of come forward and take a load of damage, and then he would be able to take that kind of damage and keep going. And now he actually, remember in The Walking Dead, in the first season, the zombies were like really strong and fast, and as they start to fall apart, the older they get, like that's actually a similar career path that they have.
So zombie is he's a walking.
He really is a zombie. Yeah.
And he's soon his body's just falling apart.
Yeah, I mean, but he's gained intelligence somehow.
That's what he needs to do. He needs to keep fighting smart. I mean, the first few rounds, he looked excellent. Dan Ige, like I'm a big fan of him, but I think today he showed why he's ranked 8th and he's not a top 5 fighter.
No, he was. Yeah, you could just clearly see he was smaller, and there was just a huge skill differential between them. But he looked good towards the end of the rounds, or at the beginning of the rounds. He always looked like he had, he was coming in strong, and then it would kind of just get neutralized by Zombie.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. At the beginning, he was loading up on those shots, and he was really swinging for him. And whenever Zombie got a hold of him and just controlled him, he seemed to get a bit despondent in the 4th and 5th round when his coaches told him to start going to the body more. I think you can see. I think in the first 3 rounds, he went to the body about 7 times in total. In the 4th and 5th, he went, I think, 18 strikes to the body. Yeah. And he had way more success. I mean, Zombie still hit him with that knee in the 5th. That just
I think that hurt him real bad.
I mean, he seemed to just drop down to the floor, and that was it. But again, that shows how measured Zombie was as well. Because maybe in a few fights before that, he hits him with that knee and he just tries and swarms for the finish. This time he got on his back, he controlled him and just saw out the round. And it was really nice to see a Zombie not taking loads and loads of damage and still getting across the line and winning.
Yeah, as soon as he got that takedown and he took his back, you kind of knew that like there was nothing that was the end of the fight. Yeah. You knew he wasn't going to take any more damage. He probably wasn't really going to go that hard for a submission either. And it was just over from that point.
Yeah, it was super impressive from Zombie. And to be honest, his next fight, I think he called out Max Holloway. So, I mean, that's a fight that I think everyone wants to see. I mean,
Max already booked?
He was booked against Yair, and that got cancelled because he got injured. But I think they've rescheduled it. So if you look at who Zombie's going to fight, I mean, who have you got in that featherweight? I mean, he's lost to Ortega.
Yeah, you've got Zabit, Calvin Kattar, Yair, and then like Volkanovski and Holloway. To be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if they did a rematch with Yair Rodriguez because he was dominating that fight.
Yeah, if that happens again, he should win easily this time. Yeah, it was one of those ones where you watch and you think he could be a bit more further on than he is, especially if he beat Yair. That might set him back a bit, but I mean, he's excellent. Love to watch him. So I'm looking forward to his next one. Who do you think?
I like just use his. I mean, he could. He's got to go down the list at this point. I think that's 2 losses in 3 fights now. Yeah, I think he probably will fight a guy in the 10 to 15 kind of area. This app doesn't show 10 to 15 rankings, so I can't name a guy.
It just shows the top 10 from 17 years ago. There is no featherweight division.
But I like how they actually use. They don't even use Zombie Chan Sung Jung. They write Zombie. I mean, how did he manage to swing that one? But then there's so many other Korean fighters. It's like Joy Soy Choi or something, and everyone's like, well, that's just his name. And we have to say all 7 names every time we say his name.
But Zombie was the first one. He was the trailblazer. Well, no, because Do Ho Choi is called the Korean Superboy. In commentary, they always they refer to him as Choi quite a bit. So
I thought, there's a lot of Choi's in MMA now, and it's good to see.
It's good to see.
Yeah, I'm glad they're getting their time.
I mean, it's about time there were more Choi's.
This might be controversial, but anytime there's an Asian fighter against a non-Asian fighter, I always support the Asian fighter. Because don't you just feel like they should be the best at martial arts? We've stolen their thing. Why are they not the best at it?
They've got the lineage. Yeah,
exactly. And we've just taken it. And, there should be a Jackie Chan of the UFC,
I can't name a Korean fighter that hasn't been
2 on this card. Yeah, exactly.
They're all bangers. They all come out.
Yes, there's Do Ho Choi. He was great. There was another one called like Hyun Gyu Lim. Do you remember him? He was like a giant welterweight.
Yes,
just knocking people out.
Yeah, didn't he get knocked out by Mike Perry?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a sad way to go.
Yeah, I can't wait for the Asian heavyweights. That will be a great time in MMA history when they start dominating the heavyweight division.
We saw them in Pride, and they were all about 7'5", and they were getting beaten by Fedor.
Yeah, Hong Man Choi was At one point in time, he was legitimately good, man. Like he was a good kickboxer.
Really? I've just seen pictures of him losing to people half his size.
So what happened with him, right? He was gigantic, and then he had like a brain tumor or something, and they removed it, and then he just wasn't the same fighter anymore afterwards. He got like an emo haircut, and he just wasn't. Because remember, he used to like be blonde, just this giant blonde guy with a huge GH chin, and then he got this surgery, slimmed down, he got black emo hair, and then he started losing to everyone. He was like having close fights with Bob Sapp.
Yeah, if you're having a close fight with Bob Sapp gassing after 30 seconds.
Yeah, tapping out. To 15 seconds, yeah.
Should we go down the card?
Yeah, so I think the next fight was Olenek versus Spivak.
Olenek versus Spivak.
Yeah.
What do you think about his
heavyweights? How much of the fight were you looking at the screen versus looking at your phone screen? And
I mean, it was a good 60-40.
Yeah.
Just because, to be honest, like at the beginning, when I looked at it and I saw there was a 17-year age gap, I was like, okay, Spivak should have enough, like just conditioning to get through him. And then in the 3rd round, Olenek was walking forward still, just winging overhand rights, and I was like, Spivak could lose this. This is very easily. He could just get clipped once. It was, it was filthy heavyweight slop. It was just.
Every time I see like an under 30 heavyweight, I get excited. I'm like, I can't wait. This guy might be the next big deal. And every time they disappoint.
Every time they're just the same as the old ones.
Yeah, just less out of shape. Yeah, it's just out of shape. No technique. Just horrendous. Remember Nikita Krylov? I think he's still in the UFC, but he's slimmed down now. And he was like 22. Everyone was so excited for him and his debut. And I was like, why? Did you watch any of the previous fights of him in Russia? He's terrible. He's horrendous. Just because you're 22, that doesn't mean you're just going to keep increasing your skills, improving your skill set until you're Felon. No, you just start forever.
That's the thing, we complain a lot about the older heavyweights in the UFC.
Yeah.
But the older ones are miles better than the younger ones. Like even this, like I was watching Olenek and I was like hoping he would get into the ground. And he did look dangerous on the ground still. I mean, going for like his 60th win. So, I mean, I was pulling for him.
I talked last week about Damian Maia being a sneaky fighter. I think Olenek is really the king of sneaky fighters.
It's not sneaky because you see it coming a mile off.
But that's why it's so sneaky. Like, there's no way he's going to do that thing.
There's no way he's going to take more punches on the top of his head and keep winging overhand rights. The next fight, Vera versus Grant.
Yeah, great fight.
I love Chito Vera. I think he's my favourite fighter.
I thought you were going to say Davy Grant. And I was like,
I mean, I love Davy Grant too because he's an English fighter.
I can't support anyone who calls himself Davy and they're above the age of about 7 years old. He had to become a fighter. There was no way that you can be a grown man called Davey without people fucking with you.
I mean, I saw his face after the state of his face after like the second round, and I was like, oh yeah, he was born to be a fighter. Like,
yeah, man, he came out real aggressive, and he looked great. Yeah, he looked good, man. At least in the first round, and over the last few fights, he's definitely looked like he got kind of deserved to be. I think the UFC were doing him a favor just to see, like, let's find out how good this guy is. So they gave him a ranked opponent. Because I think he's getting into his like later 30s, so this is really when he needs to make something happen.
Yeah, so he's 35 years old. Yeah, I mean he's won 3 in a row before this. This is his first loss. He'd beaten Marlon Vera back in 2016, and he's been talking about how he wants a title shot. Unfortunately for him, I think it's just too late. But I mean, he could still definitely have another crack at a top 15 fighter. He looks.
Yeah, I think he'll be in that. Yeah, in that type of ranking. I think he'll start to just hang around that area.
Yeah, super entertaining fight. I mean, again, love watching Vera scrap. The elbows when he got his right hand behind Grant's head in the second round.
Yeah,
and just kept on going with those left elbows, a couple of upward elbows, and just cut him up. It's fantastic to watch.
He was another one that looked like, he was a level above Davy Grant, where he absorbed the pressure in the first round. He looked pretty calm. And then he slowly started to like wear him down with the elbows. He almost choked him out in the third round as well. But he just looked like, more experienced, more like a top fighter.
Yeah, he really impressed me. One thing I would say is when he's making that step up to the next level. Like, he did lose to Aldo. I mean, losing to Aldo isn't a bad thing. He's one of the greatest of all time. But some of the mistakes that he made in that fight, similar to what he did in this fight, like his coaches told him after the first round. So he was still just backing up in a straight line. He wasn't circling off the cage as well as he should do. And again, he's still really hittable. He's still got head locks, not enough head movement in there. So for him to make that jump up and fight against, like the high level of opponents, the Rob Fonts, even like TJ Dillashaw's.
Yeah.
We'll see how he gets on in his next fight, but he's going to have to improve certain aspects of his game. But I would love to see those fights.
Yeah, I think there's a pretty big skill gap between the top 5 or so bantamweights and guys like Chito Vera.
I mean, who have you got next for Marlon Vera?
I mean, you could fight like a Marlon Moraes. I mean, he's coming off 2 losses. I think he's still ranked in the top 10. You've got Pedro Munoz coming off a win with Jimmy Rivera.
Okay, so I think a lot of these guys, let me have a look at Tapology.
They've all fought each other.
So, yeah, I think they're all sort of booked for fights. So, so Sterling's fighting Yan, of course. He's not getting any of those fights. Corey Sandhagen's fighting Dillashaw. Rob Font hasn't got a fight, but
he just won,
Yeah, he's not
fighting someone better.
Yeah, exactly. He's not going to take a number 13 fight. Pedro Munoz fighting Jose Aldo. And then, to be honest, when he called out Cruz, that would be a great fight. Like, if he can beat Cruz, that really cements himself to. I mean, Krazy isn't what he was, but I mean, he's higher than him in the rankings. So it's
did you see that video that Bisping took?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Krazy just standing there in like a suit jacket and shirt, and then no pants.
No pants. I don't know if Bisping likes Krazy or not.
I think they're a good team though. I think they work better than like Joe and Cormier work well, but they just go on these weird rants, and like Joe gets an idea in his head and he just doesn't let it go, and that's all they can focus. Oh, he's hurt his right foot, and then that's the entire fight is just commentating on how his foot is hurt. And at the end of the fight, he goes, "So when the first round, when you hurt your foot, did it affect the fight?" And he's like, "My foot's fine. I don't know what you're talking about."
That's just classic Rogan. I think.
Whereas Bisping and Krazy, like Krazy's got some pretty good analytical stuff. Bisping's kind of funny, and I think it works well.
Yeah, no, I think they bounce off each other really well. They do have a bit of bickering in there as well, which makes it entertaining.
Yeah.
Did you see Krazy at the start of the broadcast?
No.
So they were standing there. They were like, John Anik introduced it, and Dominic Cruz was like, "Oh, it's great to be here with, like, you know, good fights, good friends, and no masks." It was just.
Well, that's the thing. You know, like people always talk about like fight intelligence. Or like, you know, when Cody Garbrandt fought Dominic Cruz, they're like, that is the most intelligent fighting I've ever seen in my life. Which, fair enough, it was. But
yeah,
one of the dumbest human beings I've ever seen in my life. Also.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at all his other fights compared to that fight, I don't know what happened.
What happened? He took Alpha Brain for that one fight, and they started testing for it, so he had to stop.
Right, next fight.
Yeah, Choi versus Rosa, the second Korean on that card.
So back to our favourite, our Korean boys.
Yeah, this is a new guy, so I'm excited to have a new Asian on the roster. But the problem is they always do this. They start strong, and then they just get taken down by a wrestler, and then eventually they start, you know, losing decisions. And then
you'll stop being so negative.
Yeah, all right. I'm all in on this guy. I'm all in on Choi.
All in on Sungwoo Choi.
With his Korean pop boy band haircut.
I mean, his hands popped as well. Like in the beginning, he was looking for that right hand left hook, and eventually landed it. I don't know what Rose was doing, because he stepped in to trade, like Choi threw that right, and then Rose decided to trade left hooks with him. And it's like, you're trading left hooks with a guy that hits so much harder than you.
I think he took it on the chin as well. Yeah. As in Choi did, yeah.
Yeah, but Rose didn't have that same pop. And it's just got absolutely sparked.
Yeah.
Was it?
And then short fight.
And probably the nicest post-fight interview as well.
Yeah, what did he say? I missed that.
He said, I want to learn more English. I really like you, Michael Bisping.
Did he say that in English?
Yeah, he said it in English, yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I'm a big fan already.
A big fan. He's trying to learn English, Tom.
I bet. No, but the thing is, the problem with these Koreans is, like you mentioned, the military service. That's going to screw him over at some point, I'm assuming.
Well, he's 28. I don't know.
Has he already done it?
I have.
Because that was around the age that Korean Zombie had to go, I think.
Okay. Yeah, because
2 years.
I think Do-Ho Choi went younger than him. I'm not sure. And then
so you can choose when you want to go between a certain age, but if you haven't, then you know you're just there waiting to fuck you once you get a career going.
That is, I mean, yeah. And the problem is he's not going to get an exemption because he's not like a top athlete. You know, like Son, who plays for Tottenham. I think managed to get away out of it
because he won the Asian World Cup, whatever it's called.
Yeah. They won.
So they had to win that for him to get exempt.
The Asian World Cup.
I can't. What is it? You know, what I was thinking is like the Korean boy bands, like the K-pop bands. Those guys look like such little bitches, but they've all had to be in the army for 2 years. So their boy bands would kick the shit out of our boy bands.
100%. I mean, imagine if our boy bands trained in the army alongside Michael Bisping and Arnold Allen.
Right.
Yeah, they'd be fucking tough as nails.
Yeah.
Or it's just these boy bands getting the shit beaten out of them by Korean zombies.
Yeah, just professional Korean athletes who don't want to be there.
That's all military training is. Just MMA fights.
Do you ever see that clip of Condit when he went to like visit Afghanistan, like the soldiers in Afghanistan, and they're like sparring, and then one soldier just tries to take him out, and he just absolutely levels him.
Yeah. That was. I mean, yeah, that makes me miss Carlos Condit. I mean, speaking of old fighters, we're going to get on to
next fight.
No,
it's not the next one.
Do Wellington.
I so wanted this guy to win. His name's Wellington Turman. It's hilarious. These Brazilians with these like bizarre old English names are great.
So I think a lot of it comes from English like footballers.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Who was Wellington? I don't
know. I think I might just be making this all up. Like
no, but it's because of John Lineker. Like his surname came from Gary Lineker.
Yeah, that's what the surname came from.
Yeah, well, Brazilians, who knows what their surname is? They just choose whatever they want it to be. It's just Ronaldo, Ronaldinho. That's not their real name. Cristiano Ronaldo actually has Ronaldo in a surname. The Brazilians are the ones who just, oh, that sounds cool. So I guess that's my new surname.
I hope Chelsea's right and they don't have internet in Brazil, so they can't listen to this and get annoyed.
Anyway, so yeah, this what are we talking about? Wellington Turman, Bruno Silva. Wellington looked good, man.
I mean, he looked good for a bit.
Yeah. But at that bit, I mean, I was like, oh, he's like, a smothering grappler.
Yeah, I also enjoyed how they both grabbed the cage. Yeah. I think Silva grabbed the cage 4 times.
Yeah.
And after the second time, the referee was like, oh, if you do that again, and then grabbed it 2 more times, nothing happened.
Yeah, classic MMA refereeing, by the way.
I know, just
stop poking each other in the eye. This is your last warning because it's 17 more times.
But if you do it again. Yeah, it was weird to watch someone get knocked out like that.
Like, he wasn't defending whatsoever before that, though. I think that was his issue. Is that he's like, I guess he's really good at jiu-jitsu, but it's like he doesn't think that there's striking in MMA. And he just wasn't protecting his face at all.
That's the thing. He didn't tie his arms up or do anything to stop it, which was it was just weird to watch someone who hadn't been rocked previously get knocked out.
He got knocked out in his last fight, I think.
He got knocked out in his last fight. But like in this fight, like he hadn't been rocked earlier.
Yeah.
They just went into his guard and then just decided to defend strikes with his face.
He's a young guy, so there's he could still make a comeback. But I think 2 KO losses in a row show that you have a real chin deficiency, and that's going to be an issue going forward.
What do you think of Bruno Silva?
Didn't look great until the knockout, honestly. I mean, he survived, but yeah, he's got heavy hands from the guard.
Yeah, I mean, how many times is he going to get a chance to do this again? Like, I'm not sure. Matt Brown versus Diego Lima.
Oh, unbelievable.
Is he the first fighter to beat both Lima brothers?
Yeah, I mean, apart from the fucking Lima dad, I'm sure the beatings they took in that household to make them both into MMA fighters. You know what this fight reminded me of? Remember Robbie Lawler versus Manhoff, when Manhoff's just taking out Lawler's legs, beating him to the body, just destroying him, and then like one punch just completely makes him fall flat onto his face. It was a little bit more competitive, but similar type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a measured sort of performance from Matt Brown. He's the old fighter that every old fighter wants to be. Like Cowboy looks at that and was like, why can't I do that instead of getting chinned 5 times in a row?
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, everyone loves him. Did you hear John Anik plug Immortal Coffee partway through the fight?
I didn't know. What did he say?
He was just like, the Immortal Brown also sells Immortal Coffee at immortalcoffee.com.
Wow. You got that one in for free. Do you think if we send John Anik a message, he'll shout out this podcast?
I hope so. I mean, I'm going to have a look at Immortal Coffee website and see if we can ask Matt Brown for a sponsorship.
Who's drinking Immortal Coffee? I mean, if you go into a shop and saw Immortal Coffee and you weren't aware of MMA, it just makes it sound like you could never sleep again.
I think that's what he's going for.
Right.
He looks like he hasn't slept.
He's actually coming off he lost to Condit in his last fight. Which is like a real old man loser leaves town kind of fight, but then he stayed in anyway. To be honest, I like Lima as well. I mean, I think I like his brother more, but with the brother of a good fighter, you always just hope that they're almost as good. And that kind of leg kick style is always cool to watch. So it's sad that he just hasn't done particularly well in the UFC so far.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a better brother. Like,
yeah,
it's just odd that this time the better brother fights for Bellator and not the UFC. Because
did you ever see Joe Lozon fighting his brother in a garden and the family just standing around cheering?
No, I haven't.
So I guess they used to just have a lot of problems with each other. And Dan Lozon, like he was a semi-decent fighter. So both professional fighters, they're just fighting in some like backyard cookout. And the family are cheering for Joe. So like they were unanimously against the younger brother.
Who do you think the Lima family cheer for when the two Lima brothers fight in the back garden? Right. Well, talking about backyard brawling, did you watch the Game Bred Fighting Championships?
I did not. Please tell me all about this.
So
this is Masvidal's organization or something?
Yeah, so Masvidal started this organization headlined by a bare knuckle MMA fight between Charles Felony Bennett and Jason Knight.
I'll never call him Felony. Get out of here with the felony. It's Crazy Horse. Go fuck your mother. There's no.
He changed his surname.
I know he changed it, but no one's going to remember that too. No,
he changed his surname.
Crazy Horse is so much better than Felony.
It is. It is miles better. I mean, he was Crazy Horse when he knocked out Vanderlei.
Yeah, exactly. What are you doing, dude? Do you remember when they interviewed him? I think it was for a Pride fight or something, where they were like, "What is your training consist of?" And he's just like, "Mostly masturbating," to be honest.
Do you know what? And it shows. And he's stuck with it. And he just got choked out in the first round by Jason Knight.
Oh wow!
So
Jason Knight at one point in time was kind of a promising featherweight.
I used to like watching Jason Knight. He was one of those like scrappy jiu-jitsu trailer park guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was great. Oh, also the best thing about this event was it was paid in crypto.
Was there any other names on there?
There must have been some, but I didn't look past. I mean, if this was headlining, I'm not going to start digging into the card and being like, what gems can I uncover? My favourite thing is like everyone's like, if Charles Bennett got into a proper gym early enough, he'd be the greatest fighter. And I'm like, if Charles Bennett didn't go to jail 5 times a year, he might be a good fighter.
Right. Yeah. You ever see like the progression pics of just all of his mugshots? And he's just smiling in all of them, which looks like he's having a great time.
I mean, I'm sure he is.
It's like 40 pictures though. I mean, this guy's been arrested so many times. And
you know, he still gets booked for fights. That's the amazing
thing. Still kind of a name, I guess, for Game Bred Fighting Championships, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the fact that he's fighting Jason Knight, who he wasn't in the UFC not that long ago. Then he left to fight bare knuckle boxing.
They must be throwing some real cryptocurrency around because to get those kind of names.
I think it was 50K.
Is that a lot? I don't know.
I mean,
I think it is.
Yeah, so it's 50K in crypto, which means it could be worth nothing tomorrow. Or they could be millionaires. We'll never know.
Right. Yeah, maybe that's the attraction.
Oh, speaking about sad fighters, you see that Rashad Evans is coming out of retirement.
Does he plan to fight in Bellator?
So, good guess. His manager tweeted he's looking for fights with Logan Paul or Roy Jones Jr.
Rashad, what are you doing, dude?
So the problem is Rashad doesn't have the name value to fight Logan Paul or Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones just fought Mike Tyson. He's not going to fight Rashad Evans. Logan Paul just fought Floyd Mayweather. They're not going to fight Rashad Evans. Rashad Evans is going to fight Rampage in Bellator. He's going to be happy with it.
Yeah. The problem is Rashad has this new hairpiece that must cost thousands of dollars to maintain. So I'm guessing this is why he's calling out the Logan Pauls of the world, because how else are you going to keep that thing looking realistic a few months in?
So it's one of those things where, like, I've seen him doing lots of commentary jobs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, they must like pay pretty well, but maybe it hasn't taken off like he hopes it has, or hopes it would. So eventually he's like, oh shit, I need to go back to fighting. Or he just saw Ben Askren get knocked out for $500,000 and was like, oh, I can get knocked out for $500,000 as well. I'll just go and do that. Which is
It's a sad road, yeah, when you're like, yeah, I could take a couple more knockouts for the money.
Yeah, it is. I mean, he probably thinks he can win as well. And I mean, if he fought Logan Paul, I would back him. I mean...
Yeah. I mean, his chin always sucked. Even in his prime, his chin was always his weakness. But yeah, no, he should be able to beat Logan Paul.
I like how...
If he gets that fight, which he won't.
I like how the state of MMA has got down to breaking down potential fights between Rashad Evans and Logan Paul.
Yeah.
This is where we're at now.
Praying that Rashad can beat him and not destroy the legacy of MMA. I mean, that's kind of what Anderson Silva saved by beating Julio Chavez Jr.
Yeah. Did you see? I think that my favorite thing about that, like, I did love that Anderson was like getting all this praise and all the adulation that he finally deserved. My favorite thing was the pictures of Julius Cesar Chavez Sr., so his dad, just shaking his head at the side.
There's got to be nothing more disappointing as a father.
I mean, his son has disappointed him in the boxing ring so many times. Did you see what Chavez said before the fight?
No.
So he missed weight for the fight, which he does.
This kid's an embarrassment, man.
He is. And then he said, oh, I thought we were fighting at 185 pounds. Because that's what Anderson fought as in the UFC. So
that's a not bad excuse, yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's not a bad excuse.
How about kickboxing embarrassment when Bob Sapp beat Ernesto Hoost twice?
Put some respect on Bob Sapp's name.
Yeah, I mean, he was legit back then.
Thanks for listening to Third Degree Whitebelts. Please check out theimmortalcoffee.com.